Salve and welcome. Today we are in John chapter 2, starting our very last paragraph with verse 23 going about halfway down the page, which appears to be somewhere in the middle of verse 24. However, since with the Greek we're ending at verse 23, that's what I'm going to do here as well. Stop right there and do these two as the next video. Let's go ahead and take a look at our rubric, everything we're looking for as we go through this text. I know I still need to update this some other day. And the Latin. Cum autem esset Ierusalimes in Pascha in die festo multi crediderunt in nomine eius, vidente signa eius quae faciebat. And that's as far as we're going to go today. Very first thing we want to find is our verb, which that is not. However, we should be concerned by that more later. Autem also not. Aha, esset. From sum esse fui, specifically taking esse as its stem, t as its personal ending tells us third person singular. Since the infinitive form is the stem of this word, immediately that should tell us that this is a subjunctive, specifically the imperfect subjunctive. Third singular, imperfect, active, subjunctive. And since we have a subjunctive verb, we should know that there's probably some sort of clause happening right here. And cum should have warned us about that first anyway. Cum without a noun right there, because autem is not a noun, is not a preposition. Instead, it's introducing what we call a cum clause. And we've got a couple different options. It could be a temporal cum clause, in which case we would expect the not the infinitive. The indicative is how that normally works. We talked about this, I believe, in the last verse. But I need to do it again, as much to remind myself as you. So temporal would expect an indicative, so that's not going to be it. Circumstantial is the second option, and we translate it the same way, so it's confusing in English. And then we've got purpose, so we translate it because. And then concessive, I think, is the name of the third one. And we would translate that one as although. So before even figuring out what any of that is, we need to actually look at the rest of the context and see which one fits best. Autem means but. Ierusalemes. IS there is going to be dative or ablative. And since this is the name of a city, this tells us that the dative or ablative is actually going to be locative. Especially since this is was, so we've got in right there and in right there. So, accusative place shows us place to which, genitive shows us place at, and ablative shows us place from. So this would actually then mean who was from Jerusalem, unless I've got the declension of Jerusalem incorrect. If Jerusalem is in fact a third, then this genitive tells us it's going to be the genitive locative showing us place where. If, however, this is the first or second declension, then is would tell us place from which. And from what I understand of the proper English translation in the Greek, separation is incorrect. So I think this has got to be a third declension. However, if it is not, I will leave a note right about now. So I'm going to assume genitive, read, locative, which is spelled with an L, not a V, lock, singular, and I think this is neuter or feminine. At Jerusalem. In Pascha is indeclinable, plus accusative or ablative, in this case, ablative. In die festo, multi is the wrong form to be part of this, so it has to end right there. This one is taking the ablative. Die is going to be, of course, singular and feminine, except that festo is masculine. I don't remember now if festo is, in fact, an adjective or a noun. I think it's probably a noun. So here's another instance where I need to leave you a note. Noun or adjective, which could it be? But I'm going to treat this as an adjective, so masculine together. in day festive, or festival day. And now we can move on from there, except this is a completely new subject with multi. So let's go ahead and fix this first. But when, showing circumstances, he was at Jerusalem in Passover in the festival day. Because he was in Jerusalem in the Passover in the festival day, although he was at Jerusalem. Although I don't think is going to work. So circumstantial or causal could be it. Taking a look at our verb of the next clause, crediderunt. The multi are believing in something. So this could be the reason they're believing, or it could be the circumstances around which they were believing. Why one would believe somebody just because they're in Jerusalem, I don't really understand. So I don't think that because is the best option. I think instead when, showing circumstances. That's how I'm going to translate it. When he was. Multi, nominative, plural, masculine. We want to look ahead to see if there's a noun for it to modify. We've got a participle right there with that nt, but no noun. So this is acting substantively. Many people. Crediderunt. Erunt we've seen many times before. At this point we shouldn't need to parse it anymore. Just know immediately what's going on. Believed or trusted. In prepositional phrase. Nomine, this E here tells us that in is going to be taking the ablative. In nomine eius, we've seen before, it's possessive. But it's not going to be part of the prepositional phrase. Just name his. Videntes, this es here could be either nominative plural or accusative singular. We've already got in nomine as the object of crediderunt, so this as an accusative doesn't make much sense. Instead, modifying them, it works. So nominative, plural, masculine, present, because the nt, active, there's no passive, present participle. Seeing. And technically, just as an imperfect, we could translate this multiple different ways. We could say when they saw, because they saw, since they saw. Kind of like a cum clause, but we'll leave that alone. So we need an object of seeing. We have that right there with signa. So signum is the nominative singular, therefore a tells us this is going to be plural accusative neuter. Signs. And that reminds me now that in the Greek, I mistranslated signs as just sign. Oh well. Eius, his. Quae faciebat quae from qui quae quod. Quae could be the nominative singular feminine. However, we'd have to ask, what is it referring to? There's nothing in here that is feminine. The other option is plural neuter, since we've got neuter plural right there. Quae must be that. Same gender and number, but case depends on its own function. So this is accusative as object, plural, not feminine, neuter. You know, it's plural and accusative because faciebat, the verb of this clause, this relative clause, is singular with bot. Perfect, active, indicative. Which he was doing, he used to do, he kept doing, he began to do, he did. So we know that Jesus is in Jerusalem right now. His ministry was somewhere around 3 years. That means there were 3 Passovers that occurred during that time. The last Passover we know is going to be covered in the last chapters of this book. So that one is not going to be, probably not the specific instance that this is referring to. So we've got year 1 and year 2 of his ministry as options. If this is year 1, then inceptive or continual might be the best option, which he was doing or which he began to do, because this is the first that they're seeing these. If it's the second year, then habitual, I think, would be the best option, which he kept doing as they're watching him do it right then. Since we don't know which of those 2 years this happened during, or at least I don't know, any of those three options work. So, was doing, or making, kept, or began. There we have it. That's verse 23. Thank you very much for joining me. I forgot to do the context. Let's read that. But when he was at Jerusalem in Passover, in festival day, many people believed or trusted in his name, seeing his signs, which he was doing, he kept doing, he began to do. There we go. Now we're done. Have a good day, and voila.
Hey, not asleep yet? That's okay. I've got tons of other equally sleep-inducing videos for you to watch. Check them out.